The Philadelphia Eagles need to get back on track against the New York Giants. But first, their quarterback and their wide receiver need to quit fighting. That and more on today's edition of Locked On NFL.
The new Locked On NFL. The madman Tyler Rowland is your double shot of NFL espresso. With the Locked On local experts on every major story. Get ready, Rowland is revving up. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Football fans, welcome in to the Locked On NFL podcast, bringing you a double dose of the NFL's biggest stories with help from our local experts that know your favorite teams like no one else. I am your host, the madman Tyler Rowland, joined today by Locked On NFL expert, the Data Queen, Michelle Majuk. On today's episode, we're going to talk about the Bengals trying to stay in things with their trade of Joe Flacco, but I don't buy it. We'll talk about some NFC hopefuls who are kind of in the middle of the pack who are looking to get a playoff spot. But we'll start with this Thursday night football matchup between the Philadelphia Eagles and the New York Giants, both teams coming off of embarrassing losses, to say the least. Before we dive in, do want to thank you for making Locked On NFL your first listen. Reminder that you can follow our show and hear new episodes ad-free daily on Amazon Music, so go check that out. And thank you for being an everydayer here with us at the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. It's Thursday, which means today's episode is presented by Prize Picks because it's Crossover Thursday, and Crossover Thursday is always presented by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup, and make sure you check out your favorite team's crossover episode to go behind enemy lines. But, Michelle, we start with the Eagles, who have a terrible loss to the Broncos after being up by 14 points. And quite frankly, the vibes just seem off in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, what happens with this offense every year? I feel like we go through this with the Eagles every single year. And I don't know if it's coaching. I don't know if it's the players themselves that have the attitude issues. Like you could see that with AJ Brown get very, very frustrated anytime he's not a big part of the offense, right? Which at this point in the season, heading into week 6, it is kind of ridiculous how they can't get him going, because we've seen the one huge game and he looked exactly like AJ Brown, right? Like he was just dominating defenders. And then last week for Saquon Barkley to get 6 carries in the game, it's like, what is this play calling? At one point, you guys are up 17-3 in the second half. So why wasn't Barkley just getting fed to death? It's like we've been crying about this team running too much and being like, get the pass catchers involved. But not when you're up 17-3 in the second half. That's the time to use Barkley. It's all very weird play calling this year.
Yeah, things are very weird with the play calling, but you have to wonder if that is managing the personalities behind the scenes, because there is definitely some infighting bubbling up. And it sounds like, according to my guy, the legacy, Louis DiBiase, that the quarterback and the number one wide receiver haven't been getting along behind scenes.
So it sounds like Saquon Barkley played mediator yesterday to Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown for multiple hours. Sounded like it was a positive conversation. They needed to do this. Something had to give. Something is clearly up. I don't know if their relationship has just changed because they're friends to coworkers. There's been passing inconsistencies the last 2 years. Maybe that's formed some tension, differing views of the offensive philosophy, or if something personal happened off the field. But regardless, you ask both of them about their relationship, and clearly it's not the same as it was in 2022 a couple years ago. If they want to move forward and win a Super Bowl, these two got to be on the same page. Maybe this will be the thing that changes that, but I'm just glad they were willing to do this, because you look in history, like Donovan McNabb and T.O. never did this. And Jalen Hurts is the quarterback, the leader, knowing how receivers are, how their personalities are. You got to go a little bit of a longer way to meet them. You're not going to meet them halfway. And McNabb was never willing to do that with T.O. So this is great leadership by Jalen.
Now, let me just say, if there's something off the field that Jalen Hurts did, that's not great leadership. You know what I mean? So we got to kind of wonder what's going on there. But at the end of the day, I just think this is craziness. This is all such craziness. We're talking about a team that just won the Super Bowl, and they're mad at each other. They were 4-0 coming into the week, and they're all angry, and they don't like each other, and this and that. Like, they say winning cures everything. Well, I guess not, right? Because they are winning at the highest level possible. They continuously win. They win all their games, it feels like, and somehow they're still mad at each other, and that only matters if they start losing. But the problem is, in my opinion, that problem of them, the unhappiness in the locker room, is why they lost. You mentioned it. 6 carries for Saquon Barkley. I talked to Louis on the Monday edition of Locked On NFL about why that's the case. And he's like, well, they're trying to get the passing game going. They're trying to make the wide receivers happy. And it's like, it's just crazy to me that we're losing games that we should have won because we're trying to make people happy when shouldn't you be happy that you're 5-0? Are you more happy that you got the ball thrown to you, but you're 4-1? It's hard for me to compute right now.
Yeah, and I don't think against the Broncos when you're up by 2 touchdowns to try to make your wide receivers happy is the way to go. Like you shouldn't be focused on making AJ Brown happy when Pat Surtain is out there in the secondary, the best or second best corner in the league. Right. I do love me some Derek Stingley. I'm still on that train. But like that's just not the time to try to make your guys happy. They should be happy. They're up by 2 touchdowns. You guys are about to be 5-0. Like if you can't be happy, then maybe it's just you're not the right fit for this culture. I don't know. Like I do think this team would get worse without AJ Brown because even when they're not throwing the ball, I mean, defenses still have to be worried about him. It still helps out the run game, right? But at the same time, AJ Brown needs to realize what the team needs right now. Get your wins. You'll get your big games. Like I get it can be frustrating that you're not getting your numbers, but I think they would come if you would just stay patient. Yeah,
it's hard for me to comprehend what's going on with Philadelphia and how you could be so unhappy when the team is winning. As long as we're winning, well, I guess not. And that to me crosses I don't mind diva wide receivers. Yeah. Like I don't mind guys who want the ball, but it's, hey, we're not winning. So like getting me the ball more would help us win, but you're 4-0. Why are we giving State of the Union addresses at your locker when you're 4-0 and we're force feeding the ball? You're right. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And at some point they'll have to consider getting away from him if this continues to be a problem because they're too good of a team to be letting themselves beat themselves. But I got to tell you, I don't think they're going to have a problem this week. They're playing the Giants. The Giants are in a tough spot. And my girl, Patricia Traina from Locked On Giants, talked about the coaching issue, which is bubbling up even more now with the Giants.
All right. I'd like to believe in this coaching staff. I don't think they're bad, but the evidence is mounting against them. And quite honestly, I don't know what the answer is with this group. You know, do you fire Brian Daboll? Does that solve anything? I don't know that it does. Especially, you know, given his involvement with Jackson Dart. And now if you say, okay, well, you fire him and you promote Kafka to, you know, the interim head coach. Well, now Kafka's going to have to call plays and be the interim head coach. Is that really the arrangement you want at this point? Or do you just say, all right, you know what? We'll go through this season. We'll hope that we turn it around and we'll address this problem next year.
You know, the thing for me with the Giants is I feel like I know Malik Neighbors is out now, and that does skew things. But I feel like they have way too much talent to lose to the Saints like they did. And to let the Saints come back, like clearly there's a coaching problem, but I'm almost in agreement with Patricia where I don't think that that's going to make anything better. I don't think you're going to see a better version of the Giants. So, and I do think Brian Daboll is good at developing quarterbacks. Like I think he's a good quarterback coach. He got a playoff win out of Daniel Jones. I think he can develop Jackson Dart well enough. So if I'm the Giants, I kind of just like hold down the fort and wait till the end of the year, like she's saying.
Yeah, I would wait till the end of the year. This is why fan bases just have to be realistic coming in. I think teams, franchises should be realistic as well. Like, obviously, if you had Malik Neighbors, maybe there'd be somewhat of a chance this offense can pull enough together to help out your defense. But like, I do think Jackson Dart can be good. It was not nearly, I mean, his showing in week 5 wasn't nearly what we saw in week 4, but like, I think he can be good, but he's passing to what? Darius Slayton out there and Wando Robinson, and he has to really count on Theo Johnson. So they don't have Saquon anymore, right? And I love me some Cam Scattaboo, but it's hard to just lean on your rookie 4th round pick and be like, help us out here. And the thing is, their upcoming schedule, the Eagles, the Broncos, the 49ers, the Bears, the Packers, the Lions, and then they get the Patriots, Commanders, Vikings. They may have won their one game they're going to win all year against the Chargers.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great win. Everybody was excited, all that, but I don't have a lot of faith going forward, and I don't think a coaching change is going to change much for them, and you're probably not going to see the best you can out of Jackson Dart either way if you move on from Brian Daboll as well. The Eagles are 7.5-point favorites in this one on the road. That's a lot, but I think I'd have to go with the Eagles at that line.
Yeah, I'll take that line as well.
Yeah, they're going to be angry birds, I guess you could say, and probably want to come out and really put it on the Giants there. But with that being said, we stay in the NFC because there's a lot of teams jumbled up in the middle who have some hope to make the playoffs but need to turn it on soon. Do want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Pick awards than anyone else as of August 2025. Whether it be footwork or breath work, we know that our favorite athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings this same intention to how they craft every model. You could feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to the available Napa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but. From smooth handling to intuitive controls, with all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. As I tell you guys every time, I have a Mazda CX-5 at home. Absolutely love it. I know that you'll love a Mazda too. Like our favorite players, Mazda sweats every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. It's Mazda. Move and be moved. All right, Michelle, let's continue today's edition of Locked On NFL. We talked about the Eagles against the Giants on Thursday Night Football tonight. I expect a big-time Eagles response after letting that game slip away against the Denver Broncos. But I want to stay in the NFC East and talk about the Dallas Cowboys because they look like their season was over, all these injuries, everything going on, very difficult. But the offense has looked very, very good, and that's something my guy Landon McCool talked about after they beat the Jets this weekend.
Dallas Cowboys take care of business on the road despite a lengthy injury list. Hi, I'm Landon McCool with the Locked On Cowboys podcast, and the Dallas Cowboys took it to the New York Jets, winning 37-20, despite the fact that they were missing 4/5 of their starting offensive line and multiple other injuries, including CeeDee Lamb. The Cowboys were able to move the ball consistently early in the game and get the points they needed. And the real surprise was the defense. The defense actually was able to get pressure at times, was able to make some stops, got a key fumble and a recovery near the goal line at a key element, which really broke the game open. And incredible performances from unexpected folks like Ryan Flanoy, Maris Leofau. James Houston continues to shine. So lots to talk about. A big win on the road that really kind of proves a lot of things for the Cowboys. Make sure you check us out all week on the Locked On Cowboys podcast for more.
I mean, he mentioned the injuries. If they can get CeeDee Lamb back, they can get some guy, Tyler Booker, back on the offensive line. I know the Cowboys' defense isn't good, but this offense might be just good enough to get them to the playoffs.
Yeah, it's funny because they have the number one total offense and like yards per game, but the last ranked total defense and total yards per game allowed. So that's unfortunate. It's kind of like that's going to end up hurting them. It's really interesting also that Dak Prescott's breaking out now that CeeDee Lamb's off the field. And I think it's just a coincidence. Like, I don't think he's worse with CeeDee Lamb, right? But maybe spreading the ball around a bit more and that's helping him out. Or maybe he's just getting more used to this new system, right? Maybe it just took a few weeks to get used to the new system. But I mean, Dak Prescott has looked fantastic the last couple of weeks. We all gave them zero shot against the Packers and tied in that game. And I thought on the road against the Jets, I thought they would struggle a bit on offense. They did not. And now they get the Panthers. I think the Commanders are beatable, that they get them. I think the Broncos are beatable, even though they just beat the Eagles, the Cardinals, the Raiders. Like, they have a chance here to really fix the record.
Yeah, I think that the Cowboys can lean on that offense, and they're only going to get better as they get healthier, which makes them more potent. Maybe the defense can settle into the system like Dak has and play a little bit better. I don't have as much hope with that happening. It would be nice if they had Micah Parsons, then that would raise the floor of the defense, and they might be a team that could pull off a playoff win or something like that. But all the three teams we're about to talk about here, I think I feel the most confident in the stars of the Cowboys to bring them along. But a team that I want to move to is the Atlanta Falcons. And the Falcons are a team that seems like they have a lot of talent. They're coming off their bye, but now they have to take on a Buffalo Bills team that's very angry, and that's going to be a tough matchup, like my guy Aaron Freeman from Locked On Falcons discussed.
But now that they've lost to the Patriots, they're going to be hungry. They're going to come out there firing on all cylinders, and therefore you're more likely, if you're the Atlanta Falcons, to get a better version of the Buffalo Bills in Week 6 than you would be if they were coming off of a win. And I certainly understand that sentiment. The Bills are not a team that has been known to lose 2 games in a row very often.
It'll be interesting for the Falcons here. They play the Bills this week. Then they got to go take on the 49ers. Then they get the Dolphins, but then they're in New England against the Patriots, who are a better team than people were expecting. The Colts, who are obviously a much better team. But then they get the Panthers. It's not a super easy schedule, but it's not the most difficult schedule, because after the Panthers, they get the Saints, the Jets, the Seahawks, the Bucks again, the Cardinals, then the finish with the Saints. They're going to be right in the thick of it, but I just don't know that I trust them to play consistent enough football. I mean, to play the way that they've played in their wins and then see that they lost 30-0 against the Panthers, like, you just can't trust this team.
That's what it is, right? You're never going to be able to trust a team that lost 30-0 against the Panthers. It's not that they just lost, right? You can lose any given week to any team, especially a divisional opponent. Like, that's not the shocking part. It's the part of 30-0. And I will never take a team that lost like that to that bad of a team seriously. I can't. Yep. And Michael Penix Jr., I don't think he has it in him. I really don't. I'm not willing to just completely say he can't be an NFL quarterback just yet. I mean, he's still too fresh in his career, but he's not a guy I'm going to trust. He's not a guy I'm going to trust to go head to head against Josh Allen and come out with a win in this game. So the way the Falcons can win is if Bijan Robinson just puts on a clinic, right? And he just is demolishing the Bills, and Tyler Allgeier's coming out there and is able to gain up some yards too. They can win if their run game just goes off. If it has to be down to Michael Penix Jr., like getting it done, I just don't think it's going to happen. I mean, through 7 starts, he has 6 passing touchdowns. Not ideal.
Yeah, and the problem, I think, for them is, their defense was supposed to be so much better, and I just think they're relying on a lot of young players. Like Jalen Walker has not lived up to the pick. James Pierce Jr. has been pretty good, but Jalen Walker, who was picked, 12 picks higher or whatever it was, just hasn't been the guy that they were needing him to be right out of the gate. And again, like you're saying with Michael Penix, I'm not saying that he won't be. I'm just saying, it hasn't been that so far. And when you're relying on so many young players, they're going to be inconsistent week to week. They're going to have great performances where it gives you hope, and then they're going to have stinkers where it's like, where were they? What are they doing? That's just the reality of relying on young players. But I do want to move to the final NFC hopeful that we're talking about here that's kind of in the middle of the pack, and it's the Chicago Bears, and they're coming off a bye week here. They have a Monday night football game against the Washington Commanders this week. Going to be very, very interesting. That's a tough game. But after that, they have the Saints. Maybe no Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, then the Bengals, then the Giants, then the Vikings, who are completely beatable no matter who their quarterback is going to be. The Steelers, who look like a good team, but I think, Michelle, there's some skepticism on how good the Steelers actually are. They have the Browns on their schedule still after that. Like, the Bears could conceivably get hot here in these next couple of weeks and make a push. I think I would trust them more than I trust the Falcons.
I trust them more than I trust the Falcons, and it's more like I'm really excited to see how this Bears offense coming out of the bye, because I did feel like Caleb Williams is starting to find his groove a little bit more. They're starting to click, especially in that Cowboys game, right? Now that they had to bye, now that they had 4 weeks under their belt to reevaluate everything, they have to get DJ more involved. Like, he's just been a ghost. Like, Rome Odunze's doing his thing. That's great. But you have other weapons too that can spread the ball around more that will help out Caleb Williams continue to develop, because that's why the Lions were so good, right? They had their Amon-Ra St. Brown that got so much, but you had other playmakers there across the entire field. They have to get their other guys involved. If the Bears can figure that out, I think that'll be interesting. I'm also interested to see Jaden Daniels. Like, he's not performing at the level he was last year. I still think he's playing fine. But it's not at that elite level of rookie season. It looks like a little bit of a sophomore slump so far. Let's see. I think this could be a really, really fun game against these 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great matchup on Monday night. Can't wait to talk about it and cover it. But you're right there. I think if the Commanders can continue to run the football with, Bill Krosky-Merritt and help Jaden Daniels out that way. That'll help him get fully back, get fully comfortable again after missing some time, and they should be all right. He's still playing at a good enough level where I trust the Commanders. If we're talking about NFC hopefuls, I didn't even put the Commanders in this because I do trust them significantly more than these other three teams that we talked about. But speaking of trust, a team I don't trust and a coach that I don't trust are the Cincinnati Bengals, who traded for Joe Flacco, and the Miami Dolphins, led by Mike McDaniel. We've talked a lot about hopefuls and good teams, and now it's time to talk about a few stinkers. Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is the best place to buy tickets, and now that the NFL season is back, there's never been a better time to be in the stadium, surrounded by fans, cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle between the queues, the login screens, prices jumping at checkout. It can be frustrating. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Game Time is fast. It's easy. It's backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price that you see is the price that you pay. I pulled up Game Time, and in a couple of taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite NFL games for as low as $100. That's why I buy all of my tickets on Game Time. I bought MLB, NBA, WNBA, NFL. I bought concert and comedy tickets on Game Time. Make sure that you download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Also want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app, whether it's player props, money lines, over-unders, spreads, doesn't matter. You can find it on FanDuel, and you can put all that stuff together for a same-game parlay. We do FanDuel Fridays here on the Locked On NFL podcast. That'll be tomorrow's episode. I've gone 3-2 on my Madman's Moneymakers, 4 out of the 5 weeks. And the other week, we don't talk about that anymore. So if you want to get going, what are you waiting for? Make sure you visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Once again, that's FanDuel.com. All right, Michelle, let's cap off today's edition of Locked On NFL. We talked about the Thursday night football game taking place tonight. Talked about some hopefuls in the NFC that need to get things going to stay in the playoff race. But now we need to talk about another team that's trying to stay in the playoff race, and it's the Cincinnati Bengals, who obviously lost Joe Burrow, but they made a big trade on Tuesday. A big trade, I say tongue-in-cheek, I guess, to get Joe Flacco. And my guy Jake Lisco from Locked On Bengals talked about the move.
Look, the Cincinnati Bengals had to do something at quarterback. They couldn't simply keep running Jake Browning out there. And so they trade a 5th-round pick to the Cleveland Browns for Joe Flacco and get a 6th-round pick in return. So it's a pick swap trade for the Bengals, a relatively small price to pay for the desperate hope that Joe Flacco can provide competent quarterback play that Jake Browning could not. Jake Browning was too often late, too often inaccurate, and too often frantic under pressure and pushing to make plays that weren't available to him. But Joe Flacco has put the ball in harm's way plenty of times this season too. The upside is that he has an arm that Jake Browning doesn't have, and has a ton of experience in the NFL, has shown that he can learn offenses quickly, and that's what the Bengals are banking on. He also has familiarity with the Bengals' next opponent in the Green Bay Packers, having already played them this year, and we'll see if that factors in to the acquisition of Joe Flacco for the Bengals.
I mean, I can't say that I like this. Why not Jameis Winston? Why not someone who can push the ball down the field, inspire the locker room, bring some good vibes? Like, I just don't understand why you would go out and get old man Joe Flacco behind this offensive line instead of a guy like Jameis Winston who could still move around at least a little bit and give you some more positivity in the locker room. I don't think either of them would have worked to keep them in the playoff race in time for Joe Burrow to come back. Like, I think that's ridiculous. But, like, if you're going to try it, why go with Flacco?
Flacco's just giving up. It's 100% giving up. And you can say we can't stick with Browning because he can't stop throwing interceptions, which is true. Joe Flacco can't stop throwing interceptions. He had
Right.
6 and 4 starts this year. I mean, Flacco is the worst passer rating in the league. Well, Browning is the third worst. Your boy Cam Ward, second worst.
No, move on.
But like, I don't get it. I mean, the one game Flacco won this year, it had nothing to do with Flacco. They won 13-10. He had 142 passing yards, 0 touchdowns, and an interception in that game. It was against the Packers, so it'd be funny if he plays against the Packers again this week with the Bengals. But this doesn't do anything besides maybe help get Jamar Chase some deeper, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins some deeper receptions. It's not going to change the win-loss column, though. I'm with you. Like, how is this not Jameis Winston? How is this not Jameis Winston? I'll never understand.
And you can't tell me that Jameis Winston wouldn't have been cheaper. Like, I hate this move for the Bengals. They're giving up a 5th-round pick here, and all they're getting back is a 6th-round pick. But the problem is, it's not even the Browns' 6th-round pick. They're getting back the Lions' 6th-round pick, which is basically a 7th-round pick because they're going to be at the end of the 6th round. Like, this is almost like, it looks like a 5th and a 6th, but really you could almost look at it as a 7th and a 5th. Like, that's almost a 2-round drop for the Bengals and a team that desperately needs young talent as they try to refill the roster as their roster has fallen apart from the Super Bowl run. So I hate this move from the Bengals. I don't think it's going to work, but I got to tell you, the Bengals at least have a little bit more hope than the Miami Dolphins because things are looking rough for Mike McDaniel in Miami. And not only does the product look rough in between the lines, but a lot of his players seem to be in disagreement with him, according to Kyle Krabs from Locked On Dolphins.
This is the second time in 3 weeks one of your team captains has said something that directly conflicts with what you say at the podium after a game. It was 2 in week 3 against Buffalo for the decision-making process based on the coverage for the interception. And this week it's Bradley. You can't have that level of disconnect. I'm sorry. You can't. And whether that's, you talking to your captains after the game before press, whether that's you being more honest, whether that's you not coming out right and saying so.
And I go back to the loss that they had against the Bills where Tua throws the bad interception. Zach Seiler gets the bad penalty. Jordan Brooks gets another terrible penalty that gives the Buffalo Bills a touchdown when they had him stopped in the red zone. Like, those are 3 captains making 3 big mistakes. So if the captains of the team are making the big mistakes and not locked in, the captains of the team are disagreeing with the head coach in public, like, that's called losing the locker room, folks. And that's the number one way to lose your job as a head coach. Mike McDaniel, I was convinced that it would be Brian Callahan who got fired first from the Tennessee Titans, but it has swung back the other way, and I think Mike McDaniel probably only has a week or 2 left.
Yeah, I actually came into the season thinking it was Mike McDaniel being the first one gone, and it looks like I'm going to be correct at that. Like, I do expect them to lose against the Chargers this week, and at that point, how long do you just keep going, right? Like, you're going to be 1-5 at that point. You have the Bills in your division. You have the Patriots looking good. I mean, the Jets stink too, but that's your only win so far is against the 0-4 or they're 0-4, 0-5 Jets. Like, yeah, you got to move on. He can't talk in his press conferences. His players don't respect him. It seems like you lost Tyreek Hill for at least this year. Who knows how much longer? You got to start over. Unfortunately, they already paid Tua. But
yeah, there's not much they can do with that. So, and I think they have a little bit more to work with than the Giants on offense, at least still with Jalen Waddle. Like, they should have won that game against the Panthers. The fact that they let them come back down from 17 just kind of shows there's no faith in the coaching staff. But there is good enough play where they should have won the game. You know what I mean? And this is the second or third time this year where they probably should have won the game. And the other team came back and won. And to me, that's primarily on the coaching. And at least I don't think the Dolphins are going to turn into a good team or anything like that. But at the same time, you could look at that and say, with better coaching, we might have been able to hold off some of these wins. And that's the type of thing that gets a coach fired. But with that being said, that is going to do it for today's edition of Locked On NFL. I am your host, the Madman Tyler Rowland, for my co-host, the Data Queen, Michelle Majuk. As we tell you every single episode, thanks for tuning in. Stay safe out there.
bye, y'all.